briefly because it, like, fully took over the ADHD, and I just wanted to talk about... I mean, she was one of the best Hokages for the village. I'll give you that. Streaming... BRB. She was one of the, better Hokages, I will say, but, because of Shonen Jump, they constantly nerfed her at every single turn, so this way she wasn't allowed to fight. They left the women characters, like, too traumatized, and they made it this way that they could never beat a man in a fight, so it was just easier to not have them fight. But Shonen's been changing that lately, so that's why we have people like Sadara, and I'm hoping we get to see Sadara shine more. Okay, anyway. We want to stop in Riddell's room, but first we want to go look at the piano room again. Let me look at my map. Okay. There's a reason I write my notes on a whiteboard, is because it makes it easier on me. Okay. We continued onward, past where the stairs and the side passage emerged into the main corridor. We found ourselves in front of some ornate double doors. We go inside. And I take a sip. Pushes open the heavy door, peeks inside. Looks like the coast is clear. And then we head inside the hall. Dozens of candles provided a dim, flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of the shadows. Several enormous portraits glowered down from on high in the walls were these members of Lynx's family. I was busy staring at the paintings depicting an intimidating old man when my eyes suddenly widened as he stuck his tongue out at me. No, I was just seeing things again. Just looked that way because of how the flickering lights of the candle was reflecting off of his glossy oil painting. I mean, that could totally happen, right? Definitely. Okay, maybe. Anyway, this place gives me the creeps. Get a load of those ugly mugs. There's nothing here for us. Let's look somewhere else. Neither Miguel nor I had any objections. We left the main hall and returned to the corridor. Kid stopped in her tracks, her senses clearly tingling. Miguel and I were right behind her and immediately realized that something was very wrong. We'd hear faint whispering as if a spell were being cast, and a faint light was emanating from a monster sitting crouched on the flagstone ahead. Oh, it's this thing. Long bony fingers traced shapes into the tiles. A demon. Went for it with my knife. I made a dash to one side, lifting my dagger as I went by. Tore through its paper-thin skin. It was only a flesh wound. The thing laughed at us. Chuckling maniacally made me uneasy. I raised my knife again, preparing for the worst. Met the demon's eyes. There was a twinkle behind him. Couldn't tear the gaze away. Chuckled as it grew into its belly and then laughed into the depths of my soul. Muttered a few words and then disappeared. Okay. Why would it disappear mid-fight? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. How bad am I dinged up? Tell me. I was starting to feel a little worse for wear. I was going to have to be more careful from now on or this was going to end badly. Not bad, Sedge. Not bad at all. Didn't know you had it in you. Okay. So what this is telling me... we need to go back and we need to heal. So let's go back to the terrace real quick. Terrace came into view... kept following down the corridor. Until the kid stopped in her tracks. There's something there. Oh, it's a skeleton. The wall began moving. Oh, no. Regular section opened up, swung around, revealing two enormous goblins clinging to the back. Sounds like one of those stories about assassins sneaking around in old castles. Great. You, goblins. Kid screamed. They definitely looked like goblins to me. Maybe a touch on the large side. There were 4 in total, 2 in front of us, and 2 had appeared behind us, cutting off our path to escape. Miguel rushed towards the 2 behind, while Kid and I leapt to the 2 in front, holding their knife in our hands. Drew my knife and rushed to Kid's side. Crash! The spiked ball of the goblin's morning star smashed into the ground, crushing the stone flag flooring. Kid numbly leapt into the air, evading the attack. landing on the goblin's exposed hand. She swung upwards towards the goblin's head, plunging her knife into its eye. She then flipped backwards and stood ready for the next attack. That was Kid's style. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The next goblin charged in, swinging its morning star at me. Jump back. I jumped back to keep my distance. For a moment, I thought about copying Kid's trick, but I didn't have the confidence to pull it off. I was better off keeping an eye on my enemy, doing things my way, though I did wish I could fight like her. The goblin pulled the iron ball out of the floor and came at me, swinging it over its head. Threw my knife, using the opportunity to steal the mace from the goblin's belt and get behind it. Dodged the attack, kicked it in the face, and then used the opportunity to plunge my knife into its heart. Okay, I deflected the goblin's driving strike upwards towards the ceiling and aimed an almighty blow at its face with my foot. My momentum unbroken, I turned full circle in the air and landed it perfectly back on my feet, immediately moving in to thrust my dagger deep into its chest. Plunk. The blade sunk into the hilt. What the hell? I leapt backwards and put some space between us. Sensing danger, I jumped back, and the goblin's hand and grabbed uselessly at the air where I'd been standing. Had I been a moment later, it would have caught me. I was dealing with a monstrous, persistent foe. But having spent the last of its strength, the goblin lost its balance and collapsed onto the floor where it succumbed to its wounds. And then I dug my knife back out of its chest. I realized then that everything was quiet, and the fighting had ended. That must have been the last goblin. Thank God for that. I'm starting to feel a little worse for wear. Gonna have to be more careful from now on. Not bad, Sedge. Not bad at all. Mischievous grin, words of praise. Okay, corridor on the right-hand side. We want to go in. Kid pressed her ear against it, listening, no signs of life. Open the door. I'm gonna take a moment. Save. The door wasn't locked. It swung openly. Alright, so we heal up. We go to Riddell's room, and then we go back down. What's this supposed to be? Oh. Sorry. Phlegm. What's this supposed to be? This place a dump. Kid poked her head in through the door, taking a quick peek to see if there was anyone inside. I was disappointed by what she found. A whole lot of nothing, right? Yeah. The room was large and littered with peculiar-looking machinery and knickknacks, all of which were covered in dust and had seemingly been dumped there haphazardly. Everything looked like it had been here rusting for a long time. The ends of the room were completely dark, and it was impossible to tell how big it was, or even what the walls and floors looked like. It seemed the manor's inhabitants had turned the old clock tower into a makeshift storage space some time ago. I stepped warily inside. Leave that alone. I looked over towards Miguel and saw Kid trying to pull something from the shadows. It was a huge sword that appeared to be very old indeed. You don't need that old bludgeon. It'll only get in the way. And, as much of an antique as it is, it won't fetch much on the market in that condition. Yeah, reckon it might, you know. There's plenty of collectors who just love bits of old junk. Well, some old bits of junk. Pouting, Kid left the sword where she stood, or at least put it back down gently. And that was when we heard a voice from the shadows. And what exactly are you doing here? And I just about jumped out of my skin. Who's there? Kid and Miguel turned to face the voice, ready for a fight. Hello, old lady. A wizened crone emerged from the shadows. She was hunched over and wore a hood draped over her face. I could tell at a glance she wasn't just old. She was positively ancient. Oh. I think I did this last time, too. It's just some dodgy old bag. What do you think you're doing sneaking up on us like that? Kid's shoulders relaxed as the tension left her body. Miguel, however, continued to give the woman a piercing stare. Oh, what an impish thing you are. Here to visit a friend, perhaps? Not in the dead of night, I suspect. The crone narrowed her eyes. Let's get a closer look at you. Ah, yes. You must be here to get your revenge on Lynx. How did she... My heart jumped. She seemed to know exactly who we were. We're in trouble. What if she sounded the alarm? We'd have given up on the treasure and run for our lives. What are we going to do? Tell her she was right. And so what if we are? Kid narrowed her eyes right back at the crone. What's it to you if I had to get our revenge on old Lynxy boy? You gonna do something about it? You never change, do you? The crone chuckled madly, her small frame shaking. Ah, the boldness of youth. Yes, that's the spirit. You what? Kid looked at the crone, completely confused. I was no less mystified. Sorry, I'm a little cold, but I'm just like trying not to have it like I don't want the whole thing covered. I just want a little bit of my arm. Like, please. What the heck are you on about? Yep. Oh, it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. Yes, it was around then that an innocent young thief stole into the manor, looking to singe Sturge's whiskers. Sturge? Lynx. Lynx's whiskers. Wow, I'm having a day. She couldn't have been much older than 10, now that I think of it. Shocked, my gaze turned to Kid. A wet glint had appeared in Kid's eye, but her glare was like ice. It certainly felt as if the temperature in the room had suddenly dropped below freezing. With a chuckle, the crone continued her story, pretending not to have noticed the change in the mood. She was an orphan, you know. Came after Lynx to avenge a woman who'd loved her like her own daughter. But all the vengefulness in the world couldn't change the fact that she was only a little girl. She was no match for Lynx's men, sadly. They quickly captured her. Lynx is the kind of man who would fear to have an ally, never mind a foe. Had it not been for the timely assistance of a friend of hers, the girl would have certainly been executed. The way people of the manor told it, the very shadows pitied the girl, and rushed in to spirit her away. I wonder how much of that tale turned out to be true. I have nothing left but sympathy for those who know failure, of course. You can't win all the time. And sometimes, against the odds, fate can be foiled, and the clockwork of history sent into disarray. No, the one I have no patience for are those who do not recognize their failure, or who fail and choose to give up as a result. The crone looked up from under her hood and stared at Kid directly in the face and grinned. Kid's anger faded away, giving way to a dumbfounded expression. If you were here to steal the jewel from Lynx, if you truly wish to triumph, you will have to let go of a treasure of your own, Kid. For as long as you cling to it, the hands of your clock will never move. They'll stay exactly where they came to rest at all those years ago. Who are you? Oh, me? Why, I'm just an old bag, like you said. I do apologize. I must have taken up a lot of your time with all my babbling. I'll leave you in peace. Oh, before you go, the crone turned to face me. You seem to be injured, young man. If you wish, I could take a look at your wounds. With all the attention suddenly turned towards me, I panicked a little. Please do. Alright, yes then, please do. The crone muttered a few words as her bony fingers drew sigils in the air. A pale, gentle light began to surround my body, filling me with a strange warmth. Strike a lightning, that was no ordinary spell. Kid was impressed. I felt my wounds healing, and heard a nostalgic melody that soothed the wounds in my soul. Before I realized, the crone was gone. Hey! Hey, lady! Kid strained her eyes, scanning the darkness. There was no one to be seen. Her calls went unanswered. Who the bloody heck was that? Kid looked like she'd just woken up on the floor of the Laughing Pig after a few too many. That just messed with my head. Okay. And what does she mean about having to let go of a treasure? Well, we won't find any answers here. Oh, nope. Well, we won't find any answers here. Time to move on. Miguel brought us back down to earth, emotionless as always. It almost seemed as though nothing had happened at all. Yeah, I guess you're right. Kid walked quickly through the door, keen to move on. Son of a bitch. There we go. And I was like, I just wanted to put my blanket on, and then I knocked things off my own desk. Ugh. I should go get my slippers, too. My feet are cold. Just hauled at you. I was just about to follow Kid out of the room. She jabbed me in the side with her elbow. You stingy little bugger. Serge, why didn't you tell her to share some of that healing magic with the rest of us? Classic Kid. Sorry. Led back to the corridor, which stretched off to the right and to the left. Okay. Okay, so left leads back to the terrace. So let's go back to the left. Okay. Let's step out onto the terrace and have our conversations with everybody. We return to the quiet terrace overlooking the garden. And then I talked to Kid. Blimey, Sedge. You're a dark horse, ain't you? Really had me thinking you were something. You were just a swinging sook. There was a mischievous glint in Kid's eyes. She rewarded me with a few rare words of praise. First, I thought I caught one. Heh, you ain't seen nothing yet. We should go back inside. No, we should go back inside. We're not here for fun, muttered Miguel. And with that, I talked to Miguel. I don't know if my cat left the room or not, so... You're doing well tonight, Serge. You're less green than when we first met. You could see... What I could see of Miguel's face betrayed no emotion, but I thought I could feel the faintest of a friendly gazes from beneath the mask. Hey! Right, dust yourselves off, let's get moving. Got work to do, said Kid. And with that, I went back into the manor. Quarters stretch off to the left and to the right of the terrace. Equally chilling in both directions, left. Left-hand side of the terrace, arriving at an intersection with some stairs. There we go. Okay, so we go down the stairs. We go back to Riddell's room. Slowly we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the blackness as we went. At the bottom, the path split. On the way to the plaza, to the left of the atrium, or the passageway to the right. So we're going to go to the right. Meeting the group as usual, Kid suddenly stopped. What's that? She jabbed her finger at something in the darkness, straining my eyes, pale white bundle. There we go. This is just another skeleton. Which is fine. Stood face to face with it. Tackle. Perfect. Better luck next time. Blah, blah, blah. Skull. Go ahead, chuck it at me. Catch it. Slammed it into the floor. Perfect. Into a lifeless heap. Much better. Won't be troubling us anymore. Time to move on. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. Not bad, Sedge. Not bad at all. Didn't know you had it in you. There was a mischievous glint in Kid's eyes as she rewarded me with few words of praise. Passageway to our right eventually came to an ornate door on the right-hand side. Let's go in. Went inside. If nothing else changes in this room, because I feel like we're done with Lynx's room. Tidy, welcoming room, knickknacks, seemed well loved, stately desk nearby, no stranger to luxury. Somehow felt awfully lonely. Half-written letter on the desk, teacup still warm, suggested the lady of the manor was still near. The window was slightly ajar, bringing in some much-needed fresh air. I just want to see if anything else changes. I doubt it, but moments ago, let's come back later. Okay. I don't think that there is anything else. Okay, so save. I guess we go to the atrium now. Left with the corridor. We go to the atrium. Kid poked her head through the arch-shaped door and looked around. Huh, this is big in here. Must be some kind of hall. We took a cautious look around, then entered one after the other. The atrium was like a beautiful plaza, complete with a statue that doubled as a fountain. Pillars and arches lined the walls, and in the center was a small pool of clear water, above which the statue stood. On the other side of the room, I could see another arched entrance, like the one we had come through. Ooh, that's cold. Kid was scooping up water from the fountain. I went over to her, resting my hand on the edge of the marble basin, peered into the pool beneath. Shadows flickered under the water's surface. Reckon those fish are rare, as in valuable? Kid leaned right over the edge. Couldn't see the bottom. I wonder how deep it was. The shadow of one of the fish grew larger and larger. Whoa! Sensing danger, Kid leapt back from the edge. Clack! Fish leapt out from the water and snapped at her, its jaws bristling with razor-sharp teeth. Its mouth closed on the air where she had only been a moment before. With a splash, the fish darted back under the water. Piranodons, deadly, carnivorous fish with razor-sharp teeth and powerful jaws that could snap a monster's horn in half. Staring in horror, I watched as the dark shadows began to gather in what little of the pool I could make out. The piranodons must have detected prey. As soon as the room was filled with the sound of splashing and snapping as the fish teemed at the water surface. Bloody hell. Kid was uneasy. She took another step back. How many piranodons were in the pool? The thought of what could happen if they leapt clear of the water and attacked at once crossed my mind. A cold bead of sweat rolled down my forehead. Suddenly, the water coming from the statue turned crimson and shot out in a powerful jet that nearly touched the ceiling. Kid jumped back again. I just stood in shock, watching the torrent of water erupting from the statue. The scarlet waters continued to gush out from the fountain. The pool grew redder and started to overflow. We looked on entranced, but the spell was soon broken when we realized that the water was starting to flow faster and faster over the rim of the basin. Piranodons began to jump and snap at the water's surface with bloodthirsty glee. I was brought to my senses, rushed back the way we came. Kid, let's get out of here. In a panic, we splashed through the water back to the corridor we came from. Fangs of the piranodon snapped at my leg. I felt searing pain, but I had to endure it if I had any hope of reaching the entrance. Breathing heavily, I finally found myself back in the corridor outside. Is there any way to do that without getting bit? Like, that's the real question. Phew, that was a close call. So the whole thing was a trap, eh? Talk about twisted. Lynx is even more of a sick bastard than I thought. I was about to say that he wouldn't have to be if he didn't have to guard against people like her breaking into his home, but I thought better of it. Well, at any rate, I think we can consider that a dead end. Let's go back. Defeated, we left the atrium. But something caused Kid to stop in her tracks. Hello, what have we here? She pointed to the side of the entrance to the hallway. I found myself face to face with a sculpture of an old man's face and a truly phenomenal beard. Avatar Roku! The sculpture's eyes seemed to gleam with life. For a piece of marble, it seemed almost too realistic. It's a mouth of truth, announced Miguel. An enchanted statue that can tell when you're lying. If it catches you, it'll bite your hand off. Miguel kept this explanation simple so the Kid wouldn't drift off before he got to the important part. So what's it doing here, then? I suspect it's part of a great mechanism. Stick your hand in its gob, do ya? Righto. Let's see what happens, shall we? With a mischievous glint in her eye, Kid darted over and stuck her hand in its mouth without a moment's hesitation. She stood there for a moment, waiting, but it didn't take long for her to get bored. Nothing. Suddenly I had an idea. Hey, Kid, who's the greatest thief that ever lived? Oh, me, of course, you draw. Ah! Kid answered without a moment's hesitation, and then suddenly her face twisted in pain. Teeth of the marble sculpture had clamped down on her hand. It bit me, she cried. Knock it off. Everyone knows it's Ah! The sculpture bit her again, as soon as she spoke. Gah, you little... Cold sweat formed on Kid's forehead. The sculpture was tightening its grip. It won't let go until you say something true. Despite the obvious urgency of the situation, Miguel was matter of fact as ever. Just say something. Anything, Kid. Anything, as long as it's the truth. Obviously, Kid wasn't listening. Instead, she kicked awkwardly at the statue. Oi, beauty, let go of me bloody hand. She planted her feet on either side of its mouth and tried her hardest to pull herself out. She heaved, kicked, stamped, grunted, and strained. And then finally, her hand popped free. I was taken aback by what I just witnessed and couldn't say a word. See? Told you the truth. Kid raised her hand in the air triumphantly as if to demonstrate. I could only see heavy bite marks. The sculpture hadn't come away from the struggle unscathed either. Kid's attempt to break free had left it cracked in several places. Miguel pointed silently at a part of it. I went to take a closer look and saw a pale, flesh-colored tongue. I expect we're supposed to put something here, commented Miguel. Something? What exactly? I replied. Kid stood there for a moment lost in thought. Then she started to unload the knickknacks she'd been carrying. It was a strange collection of odds and ends she pulled out from her pocket, her boots, and even her braid. All right, Sedge. Now it's your turn. Have a go at that stupid statue. Kid grinned at me, holding her assortment of knickknacks out in the palm of both of her hands. I guess she decided whatever horrors the statue had in store, she'd rather not face them herself. Nice, Kid. Real nice. Grumbling to myself, I reached out to pick an item. I chose... The centipede looks new. The hand-shaped plate. I think that would be... Yeah, that's the only thing I could think of. I took the hand-shaped metal plate we'd found. After taking another look at the ruins, I was no closer to working out what they might mean. Here goes nothing. I stuck the plate in the mouth of Truth, this marble maw. As soon as I did, its eyes rolled upward, and the wall gave a light shudder. A low rumbling sound came from the sculpture's mouth. This, indeed, is the ultimate truth of the universe. Did you hear something? Yeah. I watched the mouth of Truth in confusion. Its great marble tongue lolled out, almost like a snake. It coiled around the plate, seizing it up, pulling it deep inside. What's going on? I looked in panic and I looked to Miguel for answers. It seems its ineffable truth of the universe has left even the mouth of Truth tongue-tied. Miguel answered in his usual deadpan manner. I think he might have even been trying to make a joke. Hang on, so that plate thingy revealed the truth of the universe, and you went and crammed it... Hang on, so that plate thingy revealed the truth to the universe, and you went and crammed it down Biddy's gullet. Do you realize how much we could have sold that for? Kid kicked the fountain in frustration and snapped her fingers. And then, drains on all sides of the room suddenly opened wide. Hey! The red water formed eddies as it sank away. Helpless, the pteranodons were washed away with the current. Soon, only trickles of water were left, slowly dripping away. Well, that's a stroke of luck, ain't it? Guess we won't be sleeping with the fishes tonight, grinned Kid, looking at the empty pool. We crossed the drained room, making for the exit to the other side, and pressed on. Saving it, because I've never gotten this far. Okay. We went through the atrium and continued down the dark corridor, finding ourselves at a fork in the road. The corridor stretched off to the right and to the left. Okay, so back to the map. Because like I said, I've never gotten this far. So we get to a fork in the road. To the left and to the right. So let's just go to the left first. We continue down the corridor, eventually reaching a rather old, sturdy-looking door. Bloody marvelous. Another bloody door with a bloody magic barrier on it. Wonder what's inside. My sixth sense tells me it ain't treasure. Kid whispered back to us as she examined the door. I suspect that this is the Manor's dungeon, replied Miguel, his eyes closed in concentration. I can hear the sounds of someone moaning in the darkness on the other side. But there's nothing we can do, and thus is of little concern to us now. Let's turn back. With no way of getting through the door, we retraced our steps down the corridor. Okay. So... instead of dungeon up here, I'm going to put T for trap. And then we have D for dungeon down here. Okay. Atrium and the fountain. Corridor directly ahead was completely enshrouded in darkness. Onward we go. We continued down the dark corridor until some stairs leading downward finally came into view. Okay. So we have a flight of stairs. What's with this place and flights of stairs, man? Down the stairs we go. Slowly we crept down the stairs, descending deeper and deeper into the shadows as we went. At the bottom we found ourselves at another intersection with paths right and left. So we've got right and left. On that note, I say that we go to the left again. We continued down the corridor until it ended at a large door covered in scratches and other odd marks. Above the door was a wooden plate. It bore the legend guard room in elaborate calligraphy. Well, well, reckon this might be where to find a key to the room upstairs. No getting past the bloody magic barrier without it. Kid pressed her ear to the door and listened carefully. Doesn't sound like anyone's in there. Well, we can, I guess, go inside. Okay, so we have guard room. Kid opened the door. The room, it seemed completely silent from the outside, or so we thought would be empty, but inside there was a lone goblin. It was sitting in a chair with a book in its hand. A light seemed to drift from a teacup on the table in front of it, and with it a delicate aroma. We're not fighting this poor thing, are we? Oh, I like this guy. The goblin peered at us, curiously, over its spectacles. There's something different about this one. I could tell as much at a glance. Heavens, how rare it is that we have guests. Heavens, how well spoken for a goblin. I could only feel dread and suspicion at the sight of him nonetheless. Sorry, mate, we're not your guests. Cough up the key to the dungeon if you want to live. Kid slammed her knife into the table to illustrate her point. But the goblin didn't so much as flinch. Ah, you must be Kid. What a pleasure it is. I have always wanted to meet you. Why, you're even more ravishing than the rumors would have. Before the goblin could finish, Kid's knife flew through the air. With a quick flick of his wrist, the goblin caught the blade with the back of his book, a mere inch from his face. Don't just ruin a perfectly good book this way. I see that your approach is as radical as the name of your merry band would suggest, the goblin said, pulling the knife free and handing it back to Kid. She took it without a word, but her gaze had changed. She was like a cat, cautiously studying its prey. And just when I was getting to the good part, too. Oh well, I suppose I shall have to give up on ever finishing it now. The goblin casually flung the book over his shoulder into a nearby bin. Allow me to introduce myself, if I may. I am Grismeld, and I am the guard on watch. No need to stand. Please, take a seat. You're welcome to tea, of course. The goblin beckoned us to sit down. Did he mean to poison us? If I may. Oh, if I may. Miguel calmly took a seat, ignoring the obvious suspicion in the air. Sit down next to Miguel. I decided to trust Miguel's instincts and took a seat next to him. He had some kind of plan in mind, I was sure of it. Kid didn't look like she'd pull up a chair anytime soon. She was standing with her arms crossed, eyeing the goblin suspiciously. The goblin poured 3 cups of tea. Here you are. Without the slightest hesitation, Miguel took his teacup and lifted it to his lips. He sipped, then placed the cup back on its saucer. Heelmilitan tea. Not a blend I'd expect to find here. Oh, what a pleasure it is to encounter a fellow connoisseur. Yes, it is a rare blend, and one mainly enjoyed by the noble classes. I couldn't believe the conversation I was hearing, but I also couldn't help wondering what this rare tea might taste like. My eyes rested on the cup that had been poured for me. I couldn't shake the feeling that it might be poisoned, but I also couldn't ignore how delicious it smelt. Before I knew it, the cup was in my hand. This is great, I blurted out. I never had such a delicious brew in my entire life. My aches and pains faded away. Oh, it healed me. I glanced over at Kid, who was blowing manically at the liquid in her cup. I'd forgotten she was paranoid about burning her mouth on things because she had that really bad thing with where she got burned. Okay, so in my thing, oh come on. So in the guard room, so I'm putting stars above both of the places where I can heal. I'm gonna have to look at this pen later and see if maybe I can salvage it. See, that's Sharpies. Don't tell me I have to buy more expos. Sorry, hold on. I'm just trying to... There we go. I was like, I know I should have at least one more in my desk somewhere. Okay. Oh, wow, yeah, this one's very different. Okay. Alright. Now that we're comfortable, let's get down to the brass tracks, as they say. Who says that? Nobody I know. I do indeed have a key to the dungeon, as you surmised, but also be aware that I cannot simply give it away. I glanced over at Kit again. Typical, she wasn't listening to a word Grismeld was saying. She was still huffing and puffing at her tea. It seemed to be up to me to respond. Here's her offer. Give us the key and you get to live. No, he proved that his reflexes are too good. I suppose that means you want something in return. You'd like to know what I want? I want your heads. Grismeld's eyes glistened behind his spectacles. I pulled out the knife as the option, or rather that's what my employer would want me to say. But no, I have no such barbarous inspirations. Furthermore, I doubt I'd be a match for you. Smart, and also I'm glad I waited so long. Grismeld chuckled as he said this. What I live for is the pure joy of conversation, which I fear my compatriots are ill-equipped to supply. Perhaps you might have one or two ripping yarns to share. Grinning, he added, I'm sure notorious thieves such as yourselves have more than a few thrilling tales up your sleeves. So he wanted to hear a story. It seemed more than fair price to pay for the key. I closed my eyes and thought, I know just the story. How did it begin? One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest, and then she was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her mother's sickness. She was out hunting for bugs. And then she walked and walked, but the sunflower was nowhere to be found. The poor girl went without food for 3 days and nights. The only fragments I remembered seemed about right. There was only one way the story could end. I took a breath and began my tale. One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. She was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her mother's illness. The poor girl went without food for 3 days and 3 nights. And then, in a moment of darkest despair, she saw a brilliant light. It was none other than the golden sunflower she sought. The young girl gratefully pocketed the sunflower's seeds. These will surely save my mother, she thought. But it was a dream. And with a smile on her face, the girl drifted off and dreamed forevermore. That was beautiful, murmured Kid, wiping tears from her eyes. Grismeld frowned. Not quite what I was expecting. And not quite the riveting tale, but I suppose it will do. A key, as promised. I took it from Grismeld's hand. Something didn't seem right, though. Was he really going to give up on it this easily? Was it really all right to trust such a strange goblin? Grismeld seemed to notice my suspicion. He leaned back into his chair, looking at the ceiling. When I was a young typo, a braver, a stupider goblin, I once served General Viper, who was lord of this manor until he was betrayed by Lord Lynx. Despite my boorishness, Lady Riddell always saw something in me worthy of praise. Wait, Riddell? What's Lynx's adopted daughter got to do with anything? Oh, didn't you know? Riddell's real father was none other than General Viper himself. What? Lord Lynx spared Lady Riddell's life, so as not to snuff out that of the frozen flame. An uncanny stone, you see. Has a life of its own, and some kind of spiritual bond with Lady Riddell. If only there were some way that I could free milady from this manor. Alas, I am powerless to do any such thing. Of course, I would have no qualms if, say, you were to topple the usurper. I assume you intend to. Slay the old beast, I mean. It was a strange inquiry to make so casually. I think that's a trap he wants us to fall into. I too was taken aback by the directness of Grismeld's question to reply. I never expected to find one of Lynx's own guards asking me something like that. Suddenly, I shoved it aside. You're damn right we're gonna kill him. Oh, that was Kid. You're damn right we're gonna kill him. It was Kid, of course. And in exchange, I'll have more, or than tea, can take with us. Kid held out her hand before Grismeld could offer an answer. Oh, in exchange, I'll have more of that tea to take with us. I suppose I have a bag I can share. Grismeld shuffled awkwardly in his seat as he retrieved it. As ever, I was impressed with how Kid's uncompromising attitude and willingness to speak her mind seemed to always get her what she wanted. Bonza, sit tight and leave the rest to us, mate. Shoving the bag in her pocket, Kid took the job. You can trust me. I'm a go with me word. That might be the biggest lie she's ever told. Right, let's get moving. She made for the door with a spring in her step. We left the room, and Grismeld behind. Okay. That went surprisingly easy. We left the room and took a left down the corridor. We followed it for a while, coming to an intersection. The way to the right, and the staircase going up. Something didn't feel right about that. I'm saving it here. We pressed onward, so what's through this door so I can write it down? We followed the corridor for a while before coming across a small door. Get a whiff of that. Something smells good, Kid said, sniffing at the air. Okay. We opened the door. Blimey, it's a small kitchen. It must be for the servants. Okay, so we have kitchen. I scanned our surroundings. A basin for washing dishes, cooking utensils, some food made ready for tomorrow, and a mousetrap. Looked like any other commoner's kitchen. Kid walked over to a large pot filled with water and peered inside. Looks like lunch for tomorrow. Want to try some, Surge? Respectfully, I decline. I made my excuse as politely as I could. Kid clicked her tongue in some disappointment. Alright then, you want some egg? No. Oh, well fine, if you're too afraid to try it, I ain't touching it either. She turned her back on the pot. Suddenly a little voice rang out. You there, young man with the braid. Kid froze. Man? Oi, who you calling a bloke? Kid barked angrily in the direction that the voice was coming from. A mouse was looking at us with eyes like saucers from inside the mousetrap hanging on the wall in the corner of the room. Oh, I'm sorry. You're a young lady, I see. The mouse bowed its head in apology. Please, kind young lady, you must hear me out. The mouse put its paws together and stared pleadingly at Kid. I left the nest to find food for my mother, but as you can see, I managed to get myself caught in a trap. If you leave me here, I will surely be eaten by goblins. Kid eyed the little creature suspiciously. I beg you, please free me from this trap. My mother is sick. She'll be terribly worried about what has become of me. Mouse was clearly begging for its life, but there was an odd little glint in its eye. Kid shrugged and sighed. Fine, I guess we can't just leave you to rot. Hold still, let's get you out of here. She lifted the trap down to the floor and opened the door. The mouse bounded happily out from inside. The mouse gave a wicked chuckle. You poor, naive fool. Suddenly, its body began to balloon massively in size. What are we dealing with here? It's a griffin. Bugger me, a griffin. The enormous creature stared balefully down at us. Idiot humans. My mother is not sick, but yours will be when she sees what I've done to you. You dirty little swine, after all I've done for you? Kid's face was red with anger. Griffin gave an almighty cry and leapt right at us. Its razor-sharp talons sliced through the air, coming towards me. I dodged the attack. Caught off guard, I tried my best to dodge the attack. But the blow never came, as the griffin suddenly lost its balance and came crashing to the ground in the super small kitchen. Oh, bother, I'm too hungry to properly even fight you. What on earth? I breathed a sigh of relief, running a hand down my chest. All right, little mouse. Now it's time for the real show to begin. Kid walked up to the griffin, cracking her knuckles. Gulp. Please, kindly young lady. This is all a misunderstanding, a terrible misunderstanding. Panicked, the creature leapt to its feet. You can't kill me. I have useful information. If you let me go, I promise I'll tell you everything I know. Everything. Yeah. I know how much a promise from the likes of you is worth. Kid took another step towards the griffin, not skipping a beat. Rah! Please. Kid kept on coming. Griffin kept shrieking away. Enough. Miguel called for Kid to stop. Let's hear it. Oh, thank you, kind sir. Thank you. The griffin was beside itself with relief. Oh, spoil my fun, why don't you? Grumbled Kid, pouting as she turned away. Listen, oh merciful Savior. Once left. Okay, wait. Left 3. No, sorry, right 3. I got this. Right 3. Left twice. Right twice. Should you find yourself trapped in one of Lynx's swirling snares, remember my words. With that, the griffin returned into its mouse-like form and disappeared into a small hole in the wall. Trapped in Lynx's snares? Huh, as if I'd ever be thick enough to walk into one of his traps. Let's get out of here. We wasted enough time already. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the kitchen. Leading the group as usual, Kid suddenly stopped. What's that? She jabbed her finger at the darkness. Straining my eyes, I could see a pale bundle of white. Thank God. Okay. So get another skeleton. I gotta say, this is much better to do when you have a whole whiteboard on your lap. Tackle. So far, so good. Better luck next time. Catch it. And slam it into the ground. Perfect. There we go. It's dead. Won't be troubling us anymore. Time to move on.